My company's in London. I live in Chelsea. All right, great.
Right, good morning, everybody. Thank you all for coming and welcome to the IETF. So this is I'm going to introduce myself in a minute, but I'll start off in telling you just to make sure you're in the right room for the right session. This is the new participant program. This is session 1, the introduction to the IETF. It lasts for about 8.5 hours. We have a small break in the middle. And then we get on to the more advanced things later. But no, so this is our revised and revamped new participant program that has multiple sessions throughout the day to help you get up to speed with the IETF. So this is the first session. We'll be talking about this one now, about the IETF, a bit about the participants in the IETF. Come in, please do come in. Some about the structure of the IETF, a small amount about the funding, the governance and policies. So with me here is Michelle, who is with the IETF Secretariat and has been attending IETF meetings for 25 years. Her focus is on new participant activities. She sends the emails that you get about the sessions that are on this week, and she'll be presenting shortly about Meet Echo. I am the IETF Executive Director. I have been in this role since 2019. I have worked the internet for many years. with originally educational IT in the domain name industry. And so my name is Jay Daly, and this is Michelle Cotton. And you will see me around, I'm sure, during the week. Right, so this is the purpose of the program. The IETF is a very complex organization, and it has a broad scope. There is a lot of work going on, large in activity, and it has detailed practices, processes, and rules. And so the aim of this program is to teach you enough in one day for you to become a productive and IETF participant, and to stop people leaving because it is so complex an organization. It is also to build a cohort of new participants so that you talk to the other people in the room who start at the same time as you, and then as you work within the IETF, you have people that you know and can work with. And it is also to give you a head start in meeting people, including people from IETF leadership and long-term participants, and slightly a bit to find out what are the hot topics in the IETF. So we're going to hand over to Michelle, who will talk about Meet Echo first.
Okay, Meet Echo. Meet Echo is actually an extremely important tool here at the IETF. It was custom built for remote participation, but we also use it for on-site participation. And one of the reasons it's important is it allows you to have all the meeting materials, chat in the sessions, but we also track attendance to know who was in what session. And it also allows the meeting planners to know like how many people generally go to a certain session for room planning and these types of things. So on the screen, you'll see what a typical Meet Echo session looks like. You'll see the group of people in the picture below. You'll see them running around, setting up meeting rooms. That is the Meet Echo team. And prior to each IETF meeting, we do practice sessions. I'm not sure if any of you were able to participate in them, but we try to allow some time to get to know some of the buttons, some of the features, and I'm going to do a very brief introduction to those features now. But if you have any problems or questions, please contact a staff member. We wear these teal shirts. Find one of us and we'll either help you or point you in the right direction. There's also a link in this slide presentation to a more substantial document about all the information related to Meet Echo. So as you see here, you'll see them outside each meeting room, and you'll also see them on the microphone in the middle of the room. We have these QR codes, and they're set to every single meeting room, so it's not the same QR code for the entire meeting. So these are what we use to help track each meeting. So when you enter a meeting room, go ahead and scan that QR code. And I'd say if you haven't done so already, this is a great time to practice with your mobile device. You can scan it and it'll prompt you. I see phones going up. That's awesome. I'll just give you another 30 seconds, 2 seconds. Okay, awesome. So you'll want to do this at every single meeting. And we're going to practice that throughout the day. So we track attendance of each one of these sessions. And if you're scanning it and it's not working right, please check with us after the meeting. So using Meet Echo, there's a couple different ways to actually get into the session. Of course, scanning the QR code will lead you down a path of getting into the meeting room. If you're on the online IETF agenda, you'll see here, you can see the different sessions listed in the middle. Hopefully you're familiar with that now. And then on the right-hand side, you have all the meeting materials. So the little purple camera is the full client, and then the little green telephone is the light client that you would use on your mobile device. So an important part of working group sessions is commenting, asking questions, speaking at the microphone. So the way that the working group chairs handle that is by keeping a queue. And you can see here, this is kind of what the queue looks like when there's two people in it. The way you'll want to add yourself to the queue is to click on the little hand symbol. And when you hover over that, you'll see it says join queue, and that's how you actually add yourself into the queue. And keep in mind, both remote participants and on-site participants are using this queue together. So even if you're in the room going to the microphone, you're going to want to put yourself in the queue so that the working group chairs can manage who's going to be coming up next. And also important piece is when you are at the microphone and you're asking a question, you want to try to state your name very clearly and your affiliation. And that helps just with identifying who you are. People aren't necessarily always looking up at the screen, so they can actually hear who's at the microphone. And then other useful buttons, of course, is your microphone. You'll want to stay muted, especially if you're remote. And generally, you keep your camera off unless you are asking a question or speaking remotely. And then obviously in the room, we'll be able to see you. A couple other fun buttons. So the little chat bubbles on the left-hand side is the meeting room chat for that particular session. So if you want to throw some comments in there, if you don't want to go to the microphone, you're welcome to post in the chat there. There is some direct messaging also available. And then the second button over, it looks like a little bar graph. This is a show your hands tool. So it's a way for working group chairs to ask the room a question. And it shows you a little live prompt there where you would answer the question, and it shows you the live results. So working group chair might say, have you read this particular draft? And you get a quick show of hands of actually how many people had read a particular document. And then just to the right of the show your hands tool, you see a little map. That map allows you to actually go to different NEWPARTICIPANT sessions. So let's say you are in a working group and you figured out you're in the wrong working group. You can go to that map and see the other sessions taking place right at that time. And then on the right-hand side, other useful buttons, the little group of people with the number 4, that's going to be your participant box. It shows you all the participants that are currently in that session. And then just to the left of that, you have the CC button, which we often refer to as closed captioning. And that's this lovely transcription service you see over here on the right. And that's what that's for. And then just to the left of that, you see a little pen and notepad. We do have a note-taking feature in MeetEcho. Anybody can use it. Often you have to do a double authentication to actually get into the note-taking. But if you want to jump in there and take notes, you are more than welcome to. Often in working group sessions, you will hear the working group chair ask if anybody's willing to volunteer to take notes. And so that's a great way to get participate a little more deeply in the working group and get familiar with what everybody's talking about. So that's where you would actually do that. Where it says testing, that's just the name of the MeetEcho room. In this case, it's called New Participant, and up there you will see the acronym of the working group instead of testing. And then of course that lovely record button, because you can go back and review these sessions at a later time. Again, if you have questions about MeetEcho, please let us know. And I realize that was a really quick version, but hopefully everything's working good for you right now. So I'm going to pass it back to Jay.
Thank you. So we start with Meet Echo because it will be important throughout the week for you to use Meet Echo. But for this session today, we don't use it that much. But we need to make sure that you understand it because it is a critical meeting tool. So now I'm going to talk about the IETF to explain a little bit more about it. These are some statements given by IETF community members about what they think is the most important part about the IETF. So most importantly, the IETF is a standards development organisation. I'll just give people a chance to come in, sit down. Plenty more seats at the front. Please. Can you come to the microphone? Sorry. The reason for asking people to go to the microphone is because the remote participants need to be able to hear the questions as well as the answers.
Okay, thank you. Just very simple question.
Yep.
Maybe everyone else already knows, but were these slides provided so I know
Right.
how much note taking I need to take?
Yes, so they are.
Okay.
So going back here, that's not going backwards now. So go back one more and back again and again. Right, so here, this is the data tracker page showing you the IETF meeting agenda. And you will see, when you see our session here on this, there will be an icon next to it showing the slides so that you can download and use the slides, okay? And just remember to go to the microphone. We use the queuing thing, put our hands up so people know, go to the microphone so that remote people know, and then we say who we are so that we have that for the recording. All good? Don't worry. It takes time to learn. I forget all the time. Okay. Sorry, to go back to this. So the IETF has no formal membership. Anyone can participate. People participate as individuals. Their employers may pay them to come here, but their employment does not count for anything when they are here. You know, you'll count because you speak as an individual. The IETF is driven by market-based adoption. The IETF writes protocols for people to use, not protocols because it's fun. The IETF is a bottom-up controlled organisation. So my job is to support the volunteers that do the work. My job is not to manage the organisation. Most decisions are made by rough consensus, not voting. And we will discuss consensus more in further sessions. There are no formal roles for governments. Governments do send people, and you will meet government people here, but no formal roles. And this is not a sales conference. You will notice there is no booths, no sale promotions, no sales related activities. Everything here is technical. That is the entire week, the entire organisation.
It's not going?
No. Sorry, just having a little issue with the slides. We'll try to go to the next slide. This sometimes happens on the Sunday, first session of the Sunday. Just try to fix it.
I'm going to stop sharing. I'm going to close
Yeah.
it down.
Okay.
Share this again. Does that work?
Yes. Lovely. We are back. Thank you. Okay. So this is the IETF mission. This is taken from an RFC. It basically says that the IETF produces RFCs. That is the job of the IETF. The IETF is a production line of RFCs, of internet standards, which are aimed at influencing the way people design, use, and manage the internet. So a very brief history of the IETF. The IETF was formed in 1986. Its first meeting was largely US government employees then in 1986. There will be people presenting today who have been to every meeting since 1986 and who were at that first meeting. It used to meet 4 times a year, now meets 3 times a year, and it has always been open to the public. It is a very different organization from many others. The RFC series that the IETF is now responsible for began much earlier in 1969, and we are now approaching 10,000 RFCs. The RFCs, as you know, are what define the internet protocol, started off with old things such as FTP and now right the way forward to modern technologies like WebRTC and things. Okay, if we leave it too long, it stops working.
Talk about the internet.
Could be the internet. Okay, I'm going to close and I'm going to, what's that go down to 16?
Right. Okay. So now I'm going to show you some data about IETF participants. The IETF has approximately 54,000 people subscribed to mailing lists. And within any 1 year, about 7,000 people are active in the IETF, which means that they either send an email message to an IETF list, come to an IETF meeting, or author an IETF document. And so that is the top line up here, the regular set of people up there. Then we have, of the 54,000 people subscribed, we have a large number of people who occasionally do something, people who read and people who monitor IETF lists. So the IETF is a very important organization for people to know what is going on, and more people watch the IETF than participate inside the IETF. Then broken down by region, the 2 largest regions are Europe and North America. Europe at approximately 40% and North America also at approximately 40% of people. And then we then have Asia at 11% and smaller regions at lower percent down there. The age breakdown, and all of this information comes from an annual survey we do, shows that the median age is somewhere in the early 50s for people, we think. And as you can see, the greater concentration of people is in the 45 to 54 range, and then the 55 to 64 range. So this is an older organization. And the breakdown by gender is almost very largely male, as you can see, men at least 85%, and then women at approximately 9 to 10%. That is this is something that people are aiming to work on, but it is important to be accurate about our current breakdown. Then when we look at employment, we see that most people are employees up here. Then we have business owners and then independent contractors down to retired people and students. But when we look by sector, the business sector, people are employed by, but then academia is a very large sector that people come from, and then civil society and not-for-profit is another large sector, and then government and things. So there is a wide variety of people here. And when we look at when people first started participating, we have people, as you can see at the front here, who started participating in 1986. But the bulk, we have attrition, and we have more people have started in the last few years participating. So this is while I've shown you the demographics of the overall IETF participants, this is a changing demographic as people are joining. I don't have the figures, but when we look at people joining, for example, or participating in the last 2 years, upwards of 20% then are women compared to 9% within the established participant group. So now a bit about the structure of the IETF. So here is a simplified diagram of how the IETF works. Starting, I will go through these shortly, okay? But here in the yellow, we have the most important part, which I'm sure they would agree, that is the Internet Engineering Steering Group, the IESG. They are responsible for the standards process, and they have the area directors responsible for the areas and responsible for the working group chairs and then the working groups. So that is where the bulk of the work within the IETF takes place. We have over here the IETF LLC that I work for, which is the corporate part of the organization that deals with the money, arranging the meetings, managing the contractors and things. And then that has two important parts to that, contracts within that, the Secretariat, which is Michelle works for, and other people who are running the conference, that they are running the meeting, and the RFC Production Centre. Then we have over here in red, the IAB, the Internet Architecture Board, which is, I'll go through their work a little bit more, and then in the advanced topics session later on, Leslie, who presents that, she will go through more about the IAB and the IRSG and the NOMCOM and others and how they work. We have the Internet Research Task Force, the IRSG, that does the Internet research groups, which we'll go through more later on today. And then we have the Nominating Committee, which is the group of volunteers that appoints most of the leadership positions here. Okay, so apart from the black parts here, and the Internet Society there, and IANA here, all of the other coloured parts are all run by IETF volunteers. This is a volunteer managed, led, run, developed, designed organisation. So the IESG, as I explained, consists of area directors and advisory liaisons. The Internet Architecture Board provides the long-term technical direction for Internet architecture. The Internet Research Steering Group manages the Internet Research Task Force. And we broke it again. No? Yeah. The IETF LLC, as mentioned, which I work for, provides the corporate legal home. And the IETF Trust, which I didn't mention, owns and manages the intellectual property of the IETF. And then the Internet Society is an international non-profit membership organisation that supports the development of the internet. The IETF LLC that I work for is a subsidiary of the Internet Society. And so the Internet Society has been involved in the IETF for many years. One thing that you will note on our previous structure is that it is extremely difficult to capture the IETF. It is very difficult for somebody to take it over. So this is the Internet Engineering Steering Group. These are the important people. Some are incoming and some are outgoing, and this is organised by the colours of area, the colours of the different areas they're organised into. This will be explained much more later on in the standards development session. And this is the Internet Architecture Board, which also has incoming and outgoing people, and that will be explained later as well. But you will see these people throughout the week. The two single most important people for you to see are down, sorry, wrong one, press the right button, Jay, are Roman Danilu, who is the IESG chair, the IETF chair. He is the most senior volunteer within the IETF, very approachable, very friendly person. Please speak to him. And then Tommy Pauly over here, who's the IAB chair. So, as mentioned, we have a secretariat. Nice photograph of them here. You can see the shirts they're wearing that give them all away. Please, any questions, any issues, please approach them. Please speak to them, very friendly people. Then there's me, the IETF Executive Director. If you find yourself in need of a gin and tonic or a cup of coffee, please come and speak to me. And then we have IETF staff as well, who provide finance, communications, IT and software development. Then we have the RFC Production Centre. These are the team who edit and publish RFCs, and they run a stall, a table during the week, which will have this banner on it. And please feel free to go and speak to them. Then we have IANA, who run the registries for IETF protocols. They also have their table during the week, and these two compete on the quality of the candies they put out for you to eat. So please do go along and check. Then we have some specialist volunteer roles, the nominating committee, which will be explained to you in a later session, the independent submissions editor, who is an appointed volunteer who manages a special path for the publication of RFCs, the independent stream. And then we have the ombuds team. These are all volunteers and they assist with any harassment issues. We have a very clear anti-harassment policy, RFC 7776, and their job is to implement that. Pete and Shivan will be on site at this meeting. Come in. And then one of the key teams, just to mention to people, is IETF Sisters, which offers women and non-binary IETF participants an opportunity to meet and exchange knowledge and experience. So there are 2 sessions of IETF Sisters during the week. Right, so a little bit about IETF funding. The IETF LLC is a US not-for-profit. It is not a pay-to-play organisation, so there is no mechanism to buy a formal role in the IETF. Companies do sponsor the IETF. We receive a lot of money from corporate sponsorship, but that does not buy anybody any influence. the way that works is the money comes to the IETF LLC that I operate, and I do not have any influence over the standards process. That is run by volunteers. So that is how we firewall the money from the standards process. For this 2025 year, our budget has us receiving 7.3 million from the Internet Society, our parent organisation. Registration fees for IETF meetings, 2.4 million. Corporate sponsorship, 1.75 million. And we also receive a lot of free equipment and services. So, for example, Cisco and Juniper donate equipment to us to the value of well over $1 million. And then we receive direct financial donations as well, which fluctuates. Last year, we received $1 million donation. This year, we're hoping to receive about $300,000. So that's our funding and the way it works. During the plenary, there will be a slide showing you a little bit more detail about our funding and the money that we have in reserves as well, which is approximately 23 million. Right, so now I'm going to talk about IETF policies and how they affect you and implement you. So this is called the IETF Note 12. It's a very small text slide. You will see this slide at the beginning of every session throughout the week. And the text I have here is the verbatim text that you will see. So as this is possibly your first exposure to it, I will go through it in more detail. By the end of the week, when you've seen it 50 times, I imagine you will forget some of this. And after 10 years, you will know it off by heart. So this is a reminder of the policies. This is not the policies themselves. This is just to help you remember the policies. And the policies are about patents and code of conduct and privacy generally, and about the processes and the way the processes work. So by participating in the IETF, you agree to follow these processes and policies. When you make I'll talk a bit more about contributions in a moment. So let me go through some of these and then come back to this. Right, contributions. So this is important for every participant. Almost everything that you provide to the IETF, so anything that you say in an IETF working group or any IETF session, anything that you write to an IETF mailing list, any document that you submit, this is considered a contribution to the IETF. And by giving a contribution to the IETF, you are granting the IETF through the IETF Trust a perpetual, irrevocable, non-exclusive, royalty-free license. It is so. What that means is, if you submit a document to the IETF, you keep copyright and keep ownership of the document, but you grant the IETF copyright as well that enables the IETF to use, work on, publish that document. And you cannot revoke that. So when you participate in the IETF, you will regularly come across somebody who has a proposal that goes nowhere, and they then ask for that proposal to be withdrawn and all of the documents deleted. And we refuse, because we need to have that record of that work to show what has happened within the IETF. This relates to the privacy policy later as well, about us not removing things generally. So this is quite an important thing to understand for you, okay? Going back to the point, the IETF is created by the volunteers, and the IETF is a not-for-profit. You, the volunteers, created by the contributions that you give to the IETF. So this is then the privacy policy. So we operate in an exceptionally transparent way, and Yes, for the Europeans among you, this is fully GDPR compliant. Okay, it surprises many people that it is, but it is a very, very, we have very clear legal basis for doing this. So we publish certain things and almost never delete or redact them. So that is the names, organizations, and country code of all meeting participants, audio, video, and transcripts of our sessions, messages to most mailing lists and our instant messaging, and all communications received, formal communications, subpoenas, letters, intellectual property disclosures, and other things. So we publish all of that. It is our legitimacy as a standards development organization depends on our transparency. It depends on people being able to see how the work was created, to understand the independence from any form of government or corporate influence, to understand the nature of the consensus that was developed, and to understand how the technical work developed. Now, we do not sell your data, and we do keep confidential certain things, such as applications for roles, awards, prizes, grants and workshop information, some things, payment information, demographic information, and personal registration information. If you give a dietary preference, we keep that private. You know, there are various things that we keep private, definitely. But this level of transparency is surprising. When you get used to this level of transparency, you will realize just how powerful it is, just how important it is as a tool for the way the IETF works. Go back to some of these other parts about things for you to understand. So we have a code of conduct and an anti-harassment procedures. Going back to the Ombuds team here. So our anti-harassment procedures give this group of people here, who are volunteers, very significant powers. They can exclude somebody from a meeting. They can exclude somebody from all mailing lists. They can do what they think is necessary to protect people from harassment within the IETF, and they can do that secretly as well. So, for example, they can issue me an instruction to remove somebody from the meeting and not let them in, and they can do that secretly if they wish. We intentionally give this group of people very significant authority and very significant power within the IETF process. So if you have a problem with the conduct of an individual that you are concerned about, these are the people you speak to initially. And by the way, this team is looking for an additional member as well. If you are interested, please let me know, and I will put you in touch with the IETF chair who is on these things. So, and they operate under strict confidentiality as described in the RFC. So that is our primary mechanism for dealing with poor behavior and bad behavior within the IETF. We also have a code of conduct, which is a more general code of conduct, BCP 54, that explains things and mentions things that details how people are expected to work. Generally, we expect everybody to be the best kind of participant they can, you know, to come here and help other people work cooperatively with other people, and to aim for consensus. We do have disagreements and robust disagreements, but the aim should be a good aim. And then finally on this slide, and which will be covered in later sessions, we have the two main process documents, BCP 9 and BCP 25, working group process, internet standards process and working group processes. Those are covered under session 3, standards development today. And then we have a little bit more about patents and participation, BCP 79, that is covered under the advanced topics later today. So you will, so I've been through some of these and the rest will be covered later today. So we now have time for questions. Anybody like to ask anything, like me to explain anything a bit more? If so, please take a stand at the microphone and introduce yourself and tell me any question. No? Please do, yeah.
Very good morning.
Morning.
I'm Jnanajaraman from India, ISAC Chennai chapter. I'm new to ITF participation today. Background of academia. I'm as a professor in computer science engineering.
Mhm.
But how can I this transformation to my students for IETF? Any possibilities way to communicating my students to participate for IETF?
Well, are your students here?
Not at home.
Wait, so
But
these
I
are,
wanted to plan to come out for all the students, arranging some of the interested students. They
Yeah.
have to do for programming and something like that. They have to.
okay. So we, in the plenary, the IETF chair will talk about this more, but the IETF makes an extraordinary effort to support remote participants. Most of the work within the, and this will be gone through later in one of the sessions, most of the work takes place in mailing lists, which is one of the most old-fashioned, easy to use, asynchronous, low bandwidth technologies there is that supports, you know, any sort of access that people might have. And for the IETF meetings, we provide extensive remote participation, and we also provide student fees, a student fee, which is much lower, and we provide fee waivers for those even for whom the student fee is too expensive to allow that remote participation. So we recognize that running meetings, coming to a meeting, airfare, accommodation, you know, subsistence are expensive, and that not everybody can afford that, particularly students. So we make such an effort to provide this very good remote participation. It is a big investment for us. Okay.
I understand. And
Thank
one
you.
more thing, small question, but
Yep.
IETF anything MOA memorandum of understanding with any academia or institution is a possibility way of developing students as online or offline in their any locations, particular locations about. Well, suppose I am belongs to Chennai in India.
Yeah.
I am belongs to Savita University. Suppose if we have any online programs for the particularly for the students, undergraduate students, in any ITF courses will be there, or we have
Okay.
to plan for that.
I will need to refer you to Dhruv Dodi, who is our outreach coordinator, who is a member of the Internet Architecture Board and who is responsible for those things, who also happens to be Indian and live in southern India as well. So he can answer those questions for you, but it's too detailed for me to go into. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
If you come up to us after the presentation, we'll get your information.
Okay. Any other questions? No? So be about time then. Next session. Well, that's nice.
Also, if you didn't get a chance to test your Meet Echo, we've got a couple minutes right now. Feel free to join the queue if you would like. You don't have to ask a question right now, but if you want to test any buttons, now's a great time.
Yep.
And
Yeah, please join the queue, send some chat messages. This is all time to experiment and play, certainly. Another question, I think?
Hi, this is Pavel Farhan from Asian Institute of Technology. I'm a PhD student.
Welcome.
Sorry that I came in a bit late. Apologies
okay.
for that. So I missed a few things and I wanted to just clarify. How does a draft progress into an RFC? And as a newcomer, how can a new participant contribute to that?
Okay, so session 3, the standards development process, will go through that in detail. We have some lovely diagrams. We'll go right the way through that. That will show you the process, and it will also give you some guidance on how you as an individual can get the best out of that process. And it will also explain to you how new work comes in and the different pathways for it. So we have a whole session that will go through that, session 3.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Okay, anything else? Oh.
Ruth Trevor Allen, nominate. I'm probably not the only person in the room who has to go back and do a presentation afterwards about what they learned.
Yes?
Can we use these slides?
Yes.
Cool.
So
Thanks.
everything the IETF publishes that is not an RFC, generally, unless it includes a substantial excerpt from an RFC, is under a Creative Commons license. Okay? So,
Brilliant,
yeah,
thank
so
you.
you can definitely. Yeah. Right. Any other questions at all? Okay, thank you, Michelle.
So we're going to have just a very quick short break while we pass it off to our next speaker for the next session. So feel free to stretch your legs and we'll meet you back here shortly.
So we'll start again at 10 o'clock then. 7 minutes.
Thank you so much for your presentation. I was too shy to ask up there, but I've used your mobile app.